So back in 2020, I, Steven Shinder, started a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing the latest films. However, it got broadcast into an alternate universe, where those films got delayed and came out differently from how I was describing them. Because of how me and my guests had been describing the films, people in that other universe were saying that this was all an improvised comedy podcast, which, listening back, I can totally get why they believe that. A lot of weird stuff happened in that first year, and I even met my other self from that other universe, who pops in from time to time, for better or worse. And now, in the year 2023, this podcast continues, still recapping and reviewing movies and sometimes some other things that got delayed or cancelled in that other universe. A new episode Saturdays every other week, unless I decide otherwise for some special reason or whatever. You are listening to Delayed Replay, Season 4.
Hello, everyone. Before starting this Coyote versus Acme episode, just wanted to let y'all know that after that discussion, about an hour and 10-ish minutes in, give or take, there will be a non-spoiler review of the Adam Sandler animated movie Leo, and then Good Burger 2 non-spoilers before going into spoilers. So check the timestamps and enjoy the show. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed or canceled in that other universe but came out on time or at all in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me to talk about this movie that in that other universe was canceled, but then they said they reversed the decision and are shopping it around now or something. It is Max. How's your afternoon going? I guess it's afternoon for you now.
It is afternoon. It's late afternoon, kind of mid afternoon, about 3 p.m. here. But yeah, it's been going good. Just been watching Trailer Park Boys and getting on with some drawing. Yeah, that's about a standard afternoon for me, I think, at this point.
How is that show? Because I feel like it's not my type of show, but I don't know if I'm missing out on anything or what.
It's one of those things where you kind of start it and you think this is going to be awful, but then the more you watch it, the more you realize that it's absolute genius and that they're playing. You know what I mean? It's that kind of show where it's oh, this is actually really, really smart.
Yeah, got it. It's Stockholm syndrome, and you're gaslighting yourself.
Well, no, it's more like it's so on the nose that it becomes clever again, because there's a sort of irony to what a lot of the characters are saying and how they present themselves, and I think it's really wonderful, and really wholesome in a way, in a really strange way.
Yeah, I remember somewhat recently I made a post saying there should be a live action Ed, Ed and Eddie where they're older and they have jobs but they're depressed. Eddie works in the candy store but has to take care of Ed because he can't do anything on his own, while Double D is having a successful life because he's a genius. And my friend Mr. Multiverse was that's just Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, that does sound a lot like Trailer Park Boys, to be fair. Yeah.
But there's been recently there's been a fan made YouTube series where the Eds are in their late teens, senior year of high school, and so it's a little bit more mature. It's called Peach Creek. And the vibes in it, it's kind of reminiscent of Twin Peaks in a couple places, and just
that
the
is
ambience.
Not a combination I was expecting.
No, yeah, but it's so cool. So far there are only a couple shorts and a full 10-minute segment or however long a normal episode is, but it's so good. I watched it 3 nights in a row when I discovered it.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking it up now. It looks wonderful, actually. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, the animation style kind of reminds me of the music videos for the Gorillas.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm getting a little bit of that vibe
Yeah,
myself.
but there is a dream sequence where it goes back to that classic Ed and Eddie style, and it looks on point. But
Oh,
um,
okay.
but yeah, so animation. So we're talking
Yeah.
about,
Okay. The segue
yeah,
into
the Sagui, um, the Sieg, as I
the Sieg.
originally thought it was pronounced when I first read it as a
Mm,
kid.
yes, the Sieg.
Yeah.
Let's Sieg into the movie that we're actually meant to be talking about.
Right.
Um,
So we're talking about Coyote versus Acme, which when I was typing it on the schedule of episodes, I was like, oh, it doesn't look too different from Captain America, the fourth one, which was the previous episode that came out before this.
okay.
Um, but yeah, this is in our universe, the ninth Looney Tunes live action type movie. So for those who, I don't know if you're new to the podcast, like there was Space Jam, Space Jam 2, Spy Jam, Looney Tunes Back in Action, Race Jam, Skate Jam, Marvin the Martian, that holiday movie, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and now Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of. That's quite a franchise we've got going there with the live action Looney Tune stuff.
Yeah, and this one,
Gosh.
yeah, in that other universe, Warner Brothers, like, we're going to cancel it, do the tax write-off thing they do there.
Mm.
But apparently my other self has been telling me there are reports that like they're reversing the decision and gonna shop it around. And apparently earlier there was a post about how like people are investigating Warner Brothers and their decisions to do this type
Yeah.
of thing.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I think
it,
that's absolutely a worthwhile investigation to be made, because they're just. I mean, it's every other movie that they've got in the pipeline now. It's a tax write-off now. We can just claim the money back, and it's more than it's going to make at the box office. Which, I mean, in fairness, probably true.
yeah,
Um,
there's this very apt comparison that it's like burning down a building for the insurance money.
Exactly. No, no, absolutely. I think that's the perfect comparison, right? I was reading the article that came. I think there was an article that came out maybe yesterday, um, that I was reading, just to get some background on this, and it was saying how like a lot of the people involved with this movie are talking about how like how much they love it and how much they really want it to be released, and that they don't like the association with the Batgirl film, which everyone's come out and said that that was rubbish anyway, and of course that's all a studio ploy to to
Yeah,
to quell
in that,
people into being okay with the fact that they wrote off a movie for tax purposes, but yeah, there's almost this like this they're trying to dissociate this case from that one. I don't
yeah,
know.
in
It's,
that
it's
other
interesting,
universe.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, in that other universe, that's what they're trying to do. Yeah. But I I don't know. It's fascinating that movie companies like it's gotten to a point where for the sake of the bottom line, they will not. It benefits them more to not release movies than it does to release them.
Like, I don't know how true this is, but I saw this post from that other universe that like Batgirl was Warner Brothers' most profitable DC movie of the year because the others that came out this year over there didn't make that much.
Oh, interesting. So it really overshadowed the the other DC films.
Right. But what's your history with with Wile E. Coyote and I guess the Roadrunner character and I guess Looney Tunes in general? Like, what are your early memories of Looney Tunes, if any?
See, yeah, no, you asked me this for Mario as well, and I was just kind of like, yeah, no, it's something that's always been there, right? But I'm not personally not got that much of a connection to it. I always liked the Wile E. Coyote bits in particular, though. That was probably my favorite Looney Tunes character, just because it was kind of so relentlessly kind of silly, and this coyote, poor coyote, never getting his never getting the Roadrunner, never always getting so close, but never quite makes it. But then that's like a classic cartoon setup, right? The Tom and Jerry's and the Sylvester and the Tweety. Is that it? Tweety
Yeah.
Bird? Yeah.
Yeah. It gets to the
Yeah.
point where you kind of feel sorry for the ones who are doing the hunting, and it's like the
Yeah.
ones that get away, it's like, just die already.
Yeah. No, absolutely. How about yourself, Stephen? Where does that have you got a big Looney Tunes connection or?
Yeah, well, as a little kid, I watched the original Space Jam a lot, and we also had like a couple of VHS tapes that had Looney Tunes, like cartoons and whatnot, and one of them was specifically like a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner collection. I can't
Oh.
remember if it like what the title of it was. It was probably like it probably had collection or highlights or best of in the title.
So
I'm
it's
willing
just
to
almost
bet.
like a compilation video.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Best
and that
Roadrunner best moments.
yeah, it was pretty fun. I remember one of the segments on there was actually Wile E. Coyote trying to get Bugs Bunny, and the coyote like could talk in that one. He had like a
Oh,
sort of
interesting.
fancy way of speak, like he sounded like an intellectual, I guess.
almost as if that's like the coyote in that case is meant to stand in for like the higher classes chasing after the little man or something along those lines.
Yeah.
That's
Also like
weird. Yeah.
also like a few years ago when like I think I was with my brother and we had visited our dad and stepmom. When we were driving away from Arizona, we saw roadrunners like outside, and they're so much smaller than I ever imagined. Like
Right.
after having like watched these roadrunner cartoons,
Yeah, because they're basically about the same size, aren't they? The coyote and the roadrunner. So you presume when you see a real roadrunner that'd be the same size as a coyote. But hang
Yeah,
on, what is the size difference? I wonder.
the roadrunners that I saw looked as small as like normal sized chickens. Like I was like really
Yeah,
shocked.
yeah, it says about 52 to 62 centimeters long, and then the wingspan is about the same as that. It seems like so. Yeah, not like not tiny birds, but not massive either.
Yeah, centimeters. How much is that in inches?
About 20 to 24 inches long.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah,
look up. I'm gonna look up a coyote. Coyote size.
I like how educational this show is.
Oh yeah, we're getting really educational. So coyotes usually are about 1.2 meters long, or which is about 4 feet. So yeah,
Okay.
roughly double the length. Not, I mean, I think height-wise, it looks like they're just about taller, but not by much. But lengthwise, about double. So
Okay.
yeah, significantly larger. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember in the Looney Tunes show, the one that aired in like the early 2010s, where like the characters lived in the suburbs and it felt kind of like
Yeah,
Seinfeld. Like I loved that
I think
show.
I watched that one. Yeah, no, I did like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but they would also include like these CGI shorts about the Wile E. Coyote trying to get the Roadrunner. So you had like your
Oh God,
classic
yeah, it
feel.
did.
Yeah, you had your classic Looney Tunes feel there, just in like 3D animation.
Yeah, that was really now that you're saying that, I'm thinking, gosh, that was kind of weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a core memory or something.
Well, yeah, you've just unlocked that memory for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I remembered there being Roadrunner bits in it, but I didn't remember it being the CGI stuff. But now that you're saying it, it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
oh
like someone ordering a soup and being like, I remember Roadrunner bits in it, but yeah, CGI stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, tasted
exactly.
weird.
It just tasted a little off. Yeah,
Yeah,
gosh.
British cuisine, am I right? No, I'm kidding.
Am I right? Yeah.
But yeah, so the premise of Coyote versus Acme, and obviously this is the version we saw in our universe, which is different from
Mm,
however it's going to be in that other universe if it ever gets released or unreleased or whatever.
mm,
Um, but the basic premise is that Wile E. Coyote, his attempts at using Acme's products to catch a Roadrunner have backfired. So now he's suing the Acme Corporation. His lawyer is played by Will Forte, and the head of the Acme Corporation is none other than John Cena. Du, 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 du. Which I mean, in that other universe is kind of appropriate because it's like you can't see him. So for a little while, people were like, "Oh, we can't see this movie," you know?
it's the nameless, faceless head of the corporation. He's
Yeah,
an invisible, unseen power.
yeah. For much of the movie, they do like the James Bond Blofeld thing where he talks, but you only see like below the neck, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But it's so obviously John Cena because how could you have John Cena talk and not know that it was immediately know that it was John Cena? Yeah, no, I so the reading of I wasn't really sold on this film until I read about the premise, and the premise just sounds wonderful. Like doing like a Looney Tunes courtroom drama. That I mean, unless they did it like the B movie, but
There was a little bit of that in Race Jam, but this like really
mm,
like exploits that to the fullest.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
like it feels very, I mean, they even, when Wile E. Coyote is trying to interview people to become his attorney, like we get cameos from people like Bob Odenkirk and Charlie Cox, who played Daredevil. So these
Mm,
actors known for playing iconic lawyers, but no, he ends up going with Will Forte for some
yeah,
reason.
no, yeah. I mean, he's the best, only the
Right.
finest.
And
I
also
mean,
more affordable, I
it,
guess.
it also seems like why you cast like just Will Forte in everything is like you could have gone so much better than this, but with Will Forte, okay, sure.
Yeah. Oh, Tatiana Maslany was one of the other lawyers as well. But yeah.
Okay, interesting.
What do you think of the blending of animation and live action in this particular film?
Yeah, so I there's a long history of it. There's a long history of blending live action with 2D animation, of course. You've got Who Framed Roger Rabbit, perfect example of it that just kind of I mean Roger Rabbit is one of those cases where it both invented that subgenre and also perfected it at the same time. And it really does feel like any any imitation of that, any kind of anything within that subgenre is going to be inevitably trying to imitate Roger Rabbit, and because it's the gold standard, of course. But it also very much feels like anything that tries to imitate that doesn't quite reach that pedestal. Get what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I didn't watch Roger Rabbit as a kid, but like I've always preferred Space Jam by a bit,
Right.
but I'm probably in the minority there, or maybe it's a generational thing. So like I don't know.
Well, I mean that's fair enough if you got like a personal connection to a movie. Of course, that's gonna. I watched. I think I must have seen Space Jam as a kid, but it was never one of those films that really took me in that sense. I just like purely from an animation standpoint, though. I think it's really hard to claim that any of those films do it better than Roger Rabbit does. And yeah, I don't know. For a genre that and it's talking about animation here, for a genre that seems to want to that is so inventive and so creative and so boundary pushing, it seems a little bit weird that we're stuck in the same cycle of essentially doing the same kind of movie. It's refreshing though to have like a slightly different play on that formula, not just doing Space Jam again, for example.
Right.
Which was a big complaint for Space Jam 2 because it was like just an incomprehensible mess of a movie that just no one enjoyed. I didn't watch it. I spared myself the sanity. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good here, but there are moments where I'm like, okay, I can tell that like these characters aren't actually in the room. Like the eye contact is not quite aligning. So I think there are like little things here and there where it's like slightly off enough that you notice that it's off. It's like they're so close yet not quite there. But I also kind of wonder if they keep doing this type of thing because they're like, oh, people love animation, but there are also some people who don't take it seriously and they prefer live action remakes and stuff like that. So it's like, why not blend the two? And I kind of wonder if they keep doing that to like combine those two different audiences, you know?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I wonder whether it is two separate audiences though. Like really, I guess the live action parts are meant to bring in more like older audiences supposedly, because you're right, there is that big kind of chunk of people that don't want to take animation seriously as a genre in and of itself, but it does very much feel like in a lot of these cases that they are trying to make children's movies anyway, and that the primary audience is younger and is usually children. I guess live action does broaden the appeal.
Yeah.
I wonder whether that's significant enough that it really matters that much. Because I think nowadays there is less stigma against adults watching animated films. I think it's becoming more and more common, which is a good thing. I don't think it's fully accepted, but I do think it's becoming more common.
Yeah, and there is that fine line, you know, like there are like older people who grew up with Looney Tunes as well, so it's like they probably want to draw some of those people in too. But yeah, like the whole animation stigma thing, like it's felt like a generational thing, you know. I'm a millennial. I think you're Gen Z or Gen Z or whatever
I'm
you
a
call
little
it,
bit
right?
younger. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I am the generation after you.
Yeah, and we take animation seriously, but like I know people of like Gen X and like the baby boomer generation who are like, oh, that's just a cartoon, they'll say that. But I do recall back in college, someone who was around my age was like, oh yeah, I don't watch the Star Wars cartoons, they're too childish, when really, like, if they watched the Clone Wars, because that's what they were referring to, like the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
I guess there are like some deep moments and also some violent moments in the Clone Wars' case sometimes. So
Yeah.
I do think there are like some people here and there who are younger who also have that thought. But
absolutely, there's holdouts for sure. No, there's holdouts, and I think a large reason why animation, that stigma against animation is becoming less palpable, maybe not disappearing per se, but less apparent, is things like anime, where they are like these things that are, a lot of it is like expressly made for older audiences. The more violent, they've got more sexual themes. So I think in general the popularity boom of that within the West has changed opinions in some regards as to what animation can do and what it's capable of. Though I do find that generally talking to the people that watch anime, there is a hesitance against Western cartoons, right? Because that's seen as, oh no, those ones are the kids' ones. These ones are for adults. Those ones are for kids. And it's like, well, a lot of cases, not really. And
Family
by
Guy
no
is
means is that
definitely for
everyone, but
kids.
there's yeah, oh yeah, no, absolutely. There's plenty of cases of those comedy cartoons in the West, but it does. I mean, it is hard to think of Western animation that is intended for adults but isn't comedy. Like it's really rare. There isn't much of it, and really it's just kind of scattered kind of art house films here and there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I remember briefly when you remember Silux, who used to come to the sci-fi and horror screenings, right? Yeah. Oh, you would have remembered the animation club, right? That we tried to set that up and it wouldn't come together. Yeah. So when one of the weeks, because we just ran it unofficially, one of the weeks we wanted to do like an adult animation week, like and show like a like a 15 rated film. And we were looking through the list of films that were like 15 rated, or R rated, I suppose, animated films, and there was just like a handful of them. There was maybe like 15 that we could find, and it was just really strange to see. I mean, the only two I can remember off the top of my head are the two rotoscoped Linklater films, Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly, if you've seen those.
Oh yeah.
Which are really kind of, art house, very strange movies, both of which have Alex Jones in them as a cameo appearance, which is really bizarre. Wow. Yeah, no, genuinely, seeing a scene in which Keanu Reeves looks at Alex Jones and then Alex Jones is giving a speech, and then it's like, what? And then he gets taken away by the cops. It's like
nice.
Yeah, oh no, honestly, it's like Alex Jones's nightmare scenario.
Right.
By nightmare scenario, I mean the exact scenario that he's purporting is the truth. But no, it's I think it's interesting just how much that doesn't really have as much of a market, to be honest.
Yeah, and I somewhat recently made a post about like how people don't take animation as seriously, and a friend of mine commented that it's very American centric to say that, because it's not like that in some other countries. So I guess there are some countries where animation is taken a lot more seriously, in which case
Oh,
I'm like,
absolutely.
which countries are these? I want to check them out.
I think you look at like French animation as well. The French, like, there's some wonderful French animated films out there that especially kind of, there's a few really good stop motion ones. My Life is a Courgette, which I think is called My Life is a Zucchini in American.
So it's like
In the
Pickle
US.
Rick. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's nothing about that, but it's a really lovely stop motion film, which I feel like isn't necessarily targeted at kids. A Town Called Panic is a really funny one as well. I'm trying to think. Oh, my mind's gone blank. There's a lot of really good French ones that they're not like explicitly targeted at adults, but at the same time, it's kind of that more like grounded approach to animation. But I think primarily when people say that, they're talking about Japan, and I think that's fine. But Japan is not the only place that can do that.
Right. Yeah.
It shouldn't be the only place where you can do that.
Yeah. Animation supremacy just like needs to be spread across across the globe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little biased on that point, but I absolutely agree.
Yeah, just a little. But yeah, like this movie opened up with like classic Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner antics. Is chasing the Roadrunner. Tried using a giant mace from the Acme Corporation, but of course it fell on his face and he fell off a cliff, which is what starts this whole court case thing. Like that sequence was 2D animation for a bit until gradually like the like what's it called, the like desert landscape like became more and more live action. Like it went from 2D to 3D and then live action. And so after that segment, when we see Coyote like fail is when he thrusts himself into like more of a live action medium, with the court case thing that goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that approach to kind of pulling back the curtain in a way. It's something that's been done plenty of times before, but the whole the dissolve from the that 2D animated landscape into the live action desert, as you said. It does have this. It sets a very fun kind of tone. It's playful. It kind of it says we're not really taking reality too seriously, right? It's cartoons in the real world. It felt appropriate for this film.
Right. Like there is like some court drama stuff, but there are moments of levity in between all of that. Like when Wile E. Coyote goes bowling with some of the Looney Tunes gang and like he tries throwing the ball, but it ends up like flying up and falling on his face. So, he like sinks down into the floorboards in a cartoony manner. So, just classic Looney Tunes gags.
Yeah, you need some scenes like that. I mean, I was half expecting he was going to look at the ball and it was going to say Acme on the ball and it was going to be a whole another development in the court case, but no, they didn't go with that.
No. Yeah, instead it turns out that the Acme logo was on the rugby ball when they were playing rugby in that one sequence.
Which was a bit strange. I mean, we don't need sports scenes in every one of these movies. Just because we started with Space Jam, it seems like a bit of a weird offshoot to try and push the rugby jam
Yeah, it feels like they're clinging to that for the sake of tradition.
Absolutely.
Did you ever play rugby or like? I
No,
don't know.
no, I wasn't not a sports guy, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Not a,
or maybe fortunately, because
or maybe fortunately, yeah, no, yeah. No, not an outdoors person. I'm inside right now. I like it here.
Yeah, Inside Out 2. Am I right?
Inside Out too. Why not?
That should be
Going back in.
That should be the what's it called? The tagline on the poster.
Why not?
Inside Out 2.
Why not? We're doing another one.
I mean, that was my
It made
reaction.
money.
That was my reaction when I saw a little teaser for like a Terminator anime that was
Yeah.
gonna be on Netflix, and my reaction was
Yeah.
like I typed sigh, sure, why not?
Sure. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
But I mean, I imagined it in your voice because I remember you reacted that way to something else a long time ago.
I think that's most of my reactions to big blockbuster franchise stuff. It's just like I don't have the energy to. Inside Out 2 is an interesting case though. I mean it's just going to create a hell of a lot of plot holes for the first movie, right? Because they had a bunch of they were going into the mind of like all the adults, and the adults only had like the 5 emotions as well. And so hang on, how are you going to add new emotions if the adults in the last one already only had 5? What's going on? What's going on? I
Maybe
mean,
they'll
it's a
add like
sequel.
the
I know it's a sequel. They need new stuff.
maybe they'll touch on incel culture and show like the emotions in those people.
Those are the 7 emotions: joy, sadness, disgust, fear, uh, anger. What's the next one's like anxiety, right? Which
Or sadness or something, or I don't know.
there's another one. The new one looks like it's going to be anxiety, but then that's just kind of fear.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they're blurring the lines of like yeah, I don't know.
It's like why do we need that? I don't think we do, but whatever.
But hey, speaking of being inside of people, Osmosis Jones, another blend of animation and
Osmosis Jones. I've never seen it. I just know that it's a thing.
Yeah,
and it's an amazing title, by the way. That like 10 out of 10 for the title. That is an amazing. Anything makes me want to watch that film. It's just the fact that it's called Osmosis Jones. Oh my God. Some of the stills from this thing.
Although story-wise, like content-wise, I would say the animated series sequel, Ozzy and Drix, was better. Like in Osmosis Jones, the animated parts are great, but the live-action parts are just like gross-out comedy, and it's
gotcha.
And like Bill Murray plays a character that you just can't root for because he's so terrible. So it's like, why even save the city within this person if he's so terrible,
Did they steal the character designs from Osmosis Jones for Elemental?
I don't know, but I saw
they
those
look
memes.
very similar. They look very similar.
Yeah.
Looking at the characters, I'm like, this looks like Elemental.
Yeah, Elemental was fine. Like, I wish I had explored more of like the city and the lore of that, but it was fine.
One either.
I think I liked it more than Inside Out because, like,
really,
yeah, like I don't know if everyone just overhyped
it's a hot
Inside
take.
Out. But
maybe,
yeah, it's also kind of an emotionally manipulative film in a way, which I guess is easy to say because of the premise, but
I saw I saw the editor of Inside Out talk back at Santa Cruz last year, and he he seemed to have a lot of interesting things to say, all of which I have forgotten. But yeah, edited Inside Out and Up. But the whole process on it, it's like they reverse engineer those films in a way. Like they animate them while they're editing them, and vice versa, right? Instead of, you know, just doing everything and then editing at the end. So there's kind of these they kind of cycle through the movie, making the movie over and over, and then working out how to edit it while they're putting it together, which is a really strange way to approach things. I don't know that it produces. I mean, it makes sense given the medium, but I don't know that it produces something that is significantly different from the way that we watch live action narratives, for example, which are, you know, have to be shot and then edited in that kind of linear fashion. But yeah, the weird thing about animation is they kind of do pre-production, production, and post-production. Kind of it all those processes kind of all merge together, which I find quite interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What it is.
You just sounded so uninterested by it.
It's morning where I am. I'm still drinking my
No,
coffee.
yeah, okay. It's you're tired. Yeah, I get you. Okay, how about the sequence where their Wile E. Coyote ends up on Hollywood Boulevard, and there's all the there's all
yeah,
the,
it was good talk
people
about that.
dressed up as the in Looney Tunes costumes, and he's chasing after a man in a road suit.
Yeah, it was so bizarre because it's like, is this gonna help his court case, or is this just some random subplot that they're like throwing in here? And
No,
like,
there was a lot of kind of random antics in there, wasn't there?
yeah, like the suit looked very much like what someone would wear at Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Absolutely. That's
Which
a Six Flags suit for sure.
Yeah, which also has like an appearance in the movie where he's like chasing the Roadrunner on like a roller coaster. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely disastrous.
Yeah, but on Hollywood Boulevard, it's like the camera would like annoyingly stay like, it would follow the Coyote, but it would also like pan down, like showing the stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like just see all these celebrity names. And it's like, why do we need to see all of these? And you can tell that these tiles are digital, because like if this was a real Hollywood Walk of Fame, it would be a little bit dirty. Like there might be like,
absolutely.
I don't know, a piece of chewed up gum or something. So it just looked too clean,
it is a dirty street. It is not a nice street to walk down. But yeah, it's like the cameraman ran out of batteries and all the way down. Pan all the way down. I'm out of charge.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised that they included the scum and villainy, like the Star Wars themed cantina in this. Yeah, he chased the Roadrunner, or the person in the Roadrunner suit through that, and like everyone just like looked all confused. But like you could also
get the rights.
Yeah, like this had to be like a little collaboration or something.
Yeah.
But
we must have had some sort of deal going on.
Yeah, and like the people in this bar were like looking around in confusion, but like you could tell that those are extras who just don't know where the animated character is going to be.
Yeah, I mean it's that effect, right? The eye line like you were saying earlier, the eye line's just a little bit off, and when it's just a little bit off, it doesn't quite work. And it's nothing on the animators. They're probably working on really tight deadlines, I'm sure.
Right. Well, he ends up eating the person in the suit, like while they're in the suit, just in one bite, and
it was surprisingly violent for a film of this genre. I didn't quite expect there to be so much pain and misery, and then that comes up in the court case with the they've got witnesses against Wile E. Coyote, and it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah, and he's got a stomach ache throughout all this, and then he realizes like the only way
up feathers.
Yeah, the only way to save face is by throwing up. So like he goes to he calls for a recess, goes to the bathroom, beats himself up, and until he's able to vomit the person out, which I feel like that scene was an homage to Liar, Liar, the Jim Carrey movie. You ever seen that?
Yeah, no, very much so, I think. Yes.
Yeah, and Jim Carrey even walks out of the stall and washes his hands as like, first time, huh? And just walks out. A little cameo there.
And what did you think about so at the end when the star witness comes in, and it's none other than,
oh yeah, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Gosh. Yeah. That was quite the moment, Star witness Tom Cruise kind of stands there and he smiles and he, with his middle tooth grin.
Yeah, so he walks in, the camera does like a slow motion. Well, before he comes in to the courtroom itself, you see him like climbing up the building because the courtroom is like inside of a skyscraper.
But it's a masked figure, right? We don't see who it is.
Oh yeah, he has like one of those masks that looks like a generic human. And then after he climbs up the building and then goes into the courtroom, he takes off the mask and it's him. So it feels very Mission Impossible, but also like Looney Tunes Back in Action did that as well.
Right, because the Acme Corporation had locked him out of the building, right? We see him earlier trying to get into the building, and they've he's in the mask, so right, we don't see his face, but they're turning him away, and they don't want him to come in, because they've resorted to these kind of these dodgy tactics, these unlawful means of getting their way, because they know that Wile E. Coyote is on the verge. Wile E. Coyote and Will Forte, they're so close to being able to just get him,
Yeah, and so when Tom Cruise finally gets into the courtroom, he reveals how Mission Impossible, his movies at some point tried using Acme products to do certain stunts, but they like fell in their face and like set the budget back a bit and caused some accidents on set.
And they lost 5 stuntmen.
Yeah. And that's why he does all.
And they show that compilation, and it's hilarious. Very violent, but really funny. Lots of car crashes, lots of rope that's splitting in two.
Yeah, and this montage is throughout all the different Mission Impossible movies being made. So like they de-aged Tom Cruise for some of these, and it's noticeable and off-putting, and it's like, man, you should just not do that. But another big takeaway is that why would they keep trying to attempt using Acme products during each of these Mission Impossible movies?
Right, and that's what John Cena tries to say, when we hear the Tom Cruise testimony, but it's by that point it's too much, right? It's this, the evidence is too overwhelming to even consider what obviously that's rubbish, but It's a movie. We gotta play by movie rules.
Yeah, and a fight scene ensues between Tom Cruise and John Cena because why not? So like that
It
happens.
reminded me of that part in Idiocracy. Terry Crews is the president. That was the vibe I was getting from John Cena in that film. Was
Oh
this
yeah,
kind of like very popular figure who's not the smartest guy, but he's at the top of the chain.
yeah. And then Terry Crews crashes through the window and
then of course Terry
fights
Crews
alongside
does.
John Cena and is like, there
Yeah.
can only be one T. Crews.
Yeah, and that was a big surprise cameo. I hadn't expected to see him at all.
Yeah, and then Wile E. Coyote looks at his attorney, who has a name. Will Forte, the attorney, has a name that's kind of similar. Like his name is Willie.
Yeah, I mean, it
Uh,
seems like a bizarre choice when you've got Wile E. Coyote and Willie, and the actor is Will Forte. It's like that's a lot of. I mean, they make a little joke about them having the same name. The judge is reading off the what do you call them? The plaintiff. What's the
yeah,
term?
he's like it's actually pronounced Coyote.
Coyote. Yeah. Well, the judge says Willie, and Will Forte's character Willie says it's actually Wiley, and then the judge says his name is as Wiley, and he has to go, no, it's actually Willie, which I thought was, not an amazing joke, but they're trying.
Right. And John Cena's character, the head of the Acme Corporation, during this fight, he's like, enough. It's time for me to reveal who I really am. And he takes off his mask. And then under the mask is his same exact face. It's like, surprise,
Yeah.
I'm John Cena.
It's like the Scooby-Doo effect. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was a fun moment. No, it really does just kind of dissolve into chaos by the ending.
Yeah, like it's just so ridiculous that like his mask looks exactly like his own face, and people couldn't put two and two together that he was John Cena.
No, absolutely.
And so because of this, the judge is like, oh, that's fraud, actually. Like, you didn't use your own identity to found this corporation. So
yeah,
this case goes in favor of Wile E. Coyote.
Which is a little confusing because as an audience, we're already like, oh yeah, but it is John Cena, right? But yeah, no, the character wasn't John Cena. He was John Cena. But
right, like when he was
John Cena.
like when he was running the Acme Corporation, he did it under a different name.
Yeah.
Instead of his own name, John
Jim Zena.
Yeah.
Jim Zena of the Acme Corporation, CEO of the Acme Corporation.
Yeah. So Wile E. Coyote wins a lot of money from this case, which he uses some of it to buy a spoon collection to decorate his apartment, which felt kind of like The Room in a way. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yeah, no, with the spoon, the spoon decorations.
Yeah.
I think in years to come, there's going to be people that will watch this movie like The Room because it does have that very that chaotic attribute to it. So I wonder whether we'll get a similar case of spoons being thrown at screens and whatnot.
Yeah, but then Wiley looks in the fruit cellar, which I don't know how there's a fruit cellar with this apartment. It doesn't really make that much sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it's cartoon logic. We're back in the cartoon world. Like,
yeah.
Let's just go with it.
Yeah, so he goes in there and he sees the Roadrunner has eaten some of his food that he has in there, and so the chase begins again and off into the sunset.
And he doesn't learn his lesson. Yeah, no, it felt like a fitting ending to a Wile E. Coyote film for sure.
Yeah, and potentially the Space Jam cinematic universe if this is where they choose to end it.
Yeah, it may well be the last of these. I mean, if in the other universe they didn't think it was going to make enough money that they canceled it, then I don't know how many more Looney Tunes live action films we're going to be getting.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see, like, because for us, this was gonna come out in summer, but they put out Barbie, and so they put this out like early November for us. So I guess we'll have to see if the box office numbers are up to their liking, because November is not always the best month, you know?
Well, it did pretty well opening weekend, so we'll have to see.
Right, yeah. So, did you have anything else you want to cover before we go into final thoughts and scores?
No, I think we covered all the cameos. Yeah.
All right. So, what are your final thoughts? Score out of 10, and do you know of measurement for that score for Coyote versus Acme?
I'll give it 7 Roadrunners out of 11. Because that was 7-Eleven product placement.
Yeah, there was like another staple of Space Jam cinematic universe movies is the product placement, and there was a lot of that.
Can I take that back? I'm gonna give it 7 out of 11 7-Elevens.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was also thinking 7. Although I guess I'm going out of 10 just to be traditional. A 7 out of 10.
Yeah. So my score is just a little bit lower than yours.
Yeah, so 7 out of 10 rooms. Because there were rooms in this movie, and that's also the score I would give The Room, as I previously
There's a lot of rooms in a lot of movies. You could almost say it's a cliche at this point.
Yeah, there should be more movies that don't have any rooms whatsoever, just completely outdoors.
I don't think I can think of a single movie without a room in it. Which it really truly makes that the ultimate cliche, doesn't it?
Yeah, just start the outdoors cinematic universe. Like it's a movement that needs to happen.
Touch some grass. Yeah.
Touch some grass. Yeah. Well, actually, does Gravity, like, that movie where Sandra Bullock's in space, does she ever go in a room in that movie?
Yeah, because they start outside the space station. They do end up going back on a ship, though. So I guess that's a room.
Yeah, I think that, like, if there is a movie that's completely outdoors, it would probably have to be, like, one of those, like, trapped somewhere or, like, disaster outside type of movies. But I just don't know, like, if there's one that's completely like that.
What's the one? 127 hours. Is that it?
Yeah, but if that one begins like at his home,
it begins in a room.
Yeah, if that one did come to mind, but I was like, there's a room in there.
Yeah. Let's see if Google knows the answer.
Are there any movies without any rooms?
Movies with no rooms. No, that's not helpful. I don't think.
Maybe if we search movies that are completely outdoors, like I did think of Happy Feet, but he eventually gets put captive in one of those zoo things. So I think that's a room.
No, Castaway has stuff at the end.
Yeah.
The Revenant, that might be no rooms. Can't think of any rooms in that movie.
Huh. Yeah, that's a movie where I'm like, I should probably watch that at some point, but I just never get around to watching it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm also thinking maybe Swiss Army Man doesn't have any rooms.
Oh, that one was wild. Yeah, because they do end up going to the city toward the end, though, I think. So, but I can't remember if
I don't
they
know
ever
whether they
go
go
inside it.
inside. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think they just kind of.
And I think midway through the movie there is like a treehouse type thing, but maybe without
Yeah.
walls. Like I don't think it is completely closed with all of the walls. So like I
Yeah,
don't
it
remember.
depends on what we're defining as a room then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because if they're not like closed off with walls, see, that could have been a movie with no rooms, but they botched it.
Yeah. That's a really absurd movie. Like I don't know if it's necessarily like if I would necessarily call it good, but just putting it on for the reactions, like to see what people think is truly worth it. I would think.
It's a fun one, and I mean, people love Everything Everywhere All at Once, which the Daniels went on to do. So I think
Oh yeah, that's
it
a quality
shows
film.
it shows a strong start for their feature making career. I think.
Yeah.
Even if they maybe haven't quite channeled the weirdness into something that's like quite as digestible, I suppose, as Everything Everywhere All at Once is.
Right. And even then it's like that movie is so it goes so many places. I'm like, is digestible the right word for it, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's certainly weird, but I don't think it loses you. Like in terms of like plotting, it's like, oh yeah, no,
Right.
I know
Yeah.
where I am.
Like well, I do think there are some viewers who get confused about where they are in the multiverse and like what's going on. But I feel
Yeah.
like because of the emotion of it, like the emotion of it is what really grounds it for me.
Yeah.
At least.
And I think that's more so what I mean is like you whether or not you're following like who's from where or it doesn't really matter that much. Like it is more the fact that those emotional beats I think do read much better than Swiss Army Man does, but that's not to say that Swiss Army Man's a bad film by any means. I think they learned a lot from doing it.
Yeah. I like how we got on all these tangents, which is truly a testament to how Coyote versus Acme is kind of just fine, kind of middle of
Yeah,
the
oh,
road.
absolutely. It's a 7 out of 11 film for me.
Yeah,
So,
like it had some fun moments and cameos here and there, but I don't know. Like I guess I kind of expected more after hearing like the early reactions, like people behind the scenes praising it and whatnot, but it was just fine.
we wouldn't have lost that much. I feel like if this one had been left on the the never to be released. Well, words are failing me.
I was thinking like the cutting room floor.
On the cutting room floor. Thank you, Stephen. You found my words. I left them right there on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I mean,
next
like talk about
next to the Wile E. Coyote film.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the Disney vault. There might as well be a WB vault with like the big old WB logo on the door. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's where all the tax write-offs go.
Yeah, I got some shelves of VHS tapes in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that'll do it. Thanks again for joining me, Max. Do you have like anything you want to plug? Like, I don't know, like an Instagram handle or something.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just making art and animations and comic, which I'm hoping to release in a few months when I can finish it. You can find all of that on Nockstar Owl at Nockstar Owl on Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter, but I don't post there, and I'm somewhere on YouTube. I forget what my handle is for that. So you can probably find it on my Instagram.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, Stephen. This has been a lot of fun. Love talking talking all the latest releases with you.
Yeah, for sure. And I've also not been using Twitter that much, but well, I went like a couple weeks without posting much on there, but I feel like a little bit recently I posted a bit more, but I'll probably like I don't know if it comes in waves or what, but it's just like Twitter's kind of dead.
It's going downhill, and I think we all kind of want to see it burning away.
Yeah, like
part of us.
Yeah, like yesterday or the other day, I saw someone in a Discord server refer to a tweet as an article, and a part of me died inside, like hearing that. Like equating a tweet with an article.
Yeah, as if it takes the same effort or something. Yeah. The 200 characters that you put like 2 ounces of thought into.
Yeah.
Versus an article.
Yeah. But yeah, and Threads is kind of a desert. I don't know if that's ever picking up. But
that one's not starting. Yeah. It's the opposite problem.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they should have waited until they'd worked out all the algorithm stuff, and like if they had launched much later, like I think they still would have been fine. Like Twitter's like still dying, so it's like Threads wouldn't have had much to worry about.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where it's like how you don't know whether it's going to be, dying for that long. So I guess they were. I guess they were anticipating it not to fail quite as much as it has, and so rushing out Threads as they did made logical sense, because they were like, yeah, we gotta capitalize on the Twitter dying, whole Twitter dying trend, and release our own Twitter, and then hopefully it'll die a little quicker.
Yeah, it's like some movie studio rushing out a similar release.
Absolutely.
Because the other studio seems to be getting a bad reputation and just capitalizing on that.
Success. Yeah. No. Yeah. In this case, failure and failure.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll do it. And next episode will be about Community, the movie. So that'll be a fun one to do as well.
Wow, that's exciting. I didn't know that was coming out.
Yes. Hey, # 6 seasons and a movie. But yeah, that'll do it. And without further delay, have a good day.
All right. So at Stephen Shinder, Instagram, Threads, X, whatever. Stephen Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. StephenShinder.com. Find my novels, the Standalones and Stepping Stones series, both on Amazon. Follow me on Goodreads and Letterboxd. And find me on Yesshift, which I do with my dad, talking about Yes and with some of their members or associates. We actually recently interviewed Trevor Rabin again, one of Yes's guitarists, who's also done scores for lots of movies. And we are reviewing a couple things in the near future, and also some more interviews down the line. So keep an eye for those. And you can email the podcast via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on John Cena. I don't know. And now here's my other self talking about a couple things in non spoilery detail, and I'll give a warning when, or if he does go into spoilers. So here he is. Hey everyone, it's me again from that other universe. So, yeah, it turns out there was some stuff for me to talk about at the end of this one. Last time I kind of gave a little update on superhero stuff. Just a bit ago, I actually watched the Invincible season 2 mid-season finale. Now, no spoilers, but they really kept the tensions high and really curious to see where this will go. Apparently, this is on a break for, I guess, a couple months. I haven't really looked up the date, so just look it up. But yeah, I could talk a little bit about, since this is on the Coyote versus Acme episode, talking a little bit animation, a little bit live action. I saw that the Aardman Studios, the company that makes claymations like Wallace and Gromit, and they've done Chicken Run and some other stuff. Apparently, the factory that makes the clay that they use is shutting down, so they only have one more film left after this next Chicken Run movie, and it'll be a Wallace and Gromit movie. Kind of surprising. I didn't realize how not so easy to come by clay is for the studio, apart from just that one factory. Like, I don't know, it's kind of weird for me to wrap my head around. So, I actually suggested to some people that maybe the Wallace and Gromit movie that they're making should be about Wallace, running out of cheese. Maybe there's, I know this isn't how things work, but a cheese factory shuts down and he only has enough cheese to make a movie out of cheese, using cheese instead of clay, and the Wallace, from Wallace's perspective, like in universe, and yeah, just something stupid like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was it'd be kind of funny meta idea in a way, but yeah, also kind of sad if Aardman is done after this. Now, theoretically, people have said they could just switch to 3D animation like they did with Flushed Away, but I don't know. I don't know what the future is of the company. Um, but in terms of live action, so just past the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, the 60th anniversary special, the first of them anyway, is going to air the same day that this episode comes out. So no thoughts on that yet, but the preview clip was pretty cool. Beep the Meep looks amazing, like amazing work of, I guess, puppetry and animatronics, if I'm not mistaken, and the voice sounds pretty good. So very excited for that. And people kept saying Happy Thanksgiving, and I was like, no, it's Doctor Who Day. November 23rd, and so I celebrated my own way. Reading a couple of Doctor Who things and listening to a couple Doctor Who things. If you follow me on Goodreads, you know what I've been going through, and yeah, just really curious to see what the future of the series is. It's ever so close. And yeah, so I guess this little segment now will be kind of Leo versus Good Burger 2. Because Leo is animated and Good Burger 2 is live action, and they both came out the same week, within like a day apart, I think. For those who don't know, Leo is a 3D animated movie about a lizard who's like a classroom pet, and he's 74, and he overhears someone say, oh, 75 is the lifespan, and so he has like an existential crisis, and apparently animals can speak English, and he decides to reveal this to each of the students one by one, but ends up giving them advice, and it's a strange film, without spoiling, like, it feels very much like Adam Sandler's own attempt at a sort of B movie, like the Jerry Seinfeld B movie from DreamWorks. Like I had like a similar feel watching this. It's kind of memey in a way. There's even a musical number where, in musicals you see the characters do these like fantastical things, and it's like, oh, this is just in their head, but in the movie it's like, oh, these things actually like were dancing around in the musical number. So there are a few musical numbers throughout. I think they're pretty short though, so I don't know if people would be like put off by musical numbers, but I feel like they weren't really long. Um, yeah, like this is not an Eight Crazy Nights situation. I know people have different opinions on Eight Crazy Nights, but Leo is PG. It doesn't get too vulgar. But again, like I said, there is like some B movie level humor where it's PG, but there are a few adult jokes in there, and they're not so subtle, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, I would say it's worth checking out. I was kind of like struggling with a score for it, but I'm feeling like maybe it's a maybe 7 or 7.25 out of 10 Squirtles. And I say Squirtles because Squirtle is the name of the class pet turtle in the movie, voiced by Bill Burr. Yeah, he's in this too. The kids were funny, like just the voice acting and like the way that the humans move is kind of funny to me in a way, and where they go, how they travel. What's kind of off-putting though is the really young kids, like the super young ones, look like caricatures from some like video game that's just for people with low attention spans. Like they look like the little kids, not the main kids. The little kids that you see here and there, are, like once in a while in the movie, feel like something that would be put in the Emoji movie. So, yeah, but this isn't terrible like the Emoji movie. Like this is a movie, Leo, I thought it was fine, and it even has a nice message at the end, surprisingly. So it's definitely worth checking out. It's on Netflix. So yeah. And the other thing that came out the day after that, so basically, was Good Burger 2, the long awaited, and I say awaited in air quotes, sequel to the 1997 classic, again in air quotes. Good Burger 1 is something that my brother and I grew up watching, renting it from the video store, and just the humor of it is just these running gags that became like inside jokes to us, and it has its charm. If you watch it like when you're much older, maybe some of it doesn't age well. Definitely not the mental institution stuff, but just in terms of the overall feel of it, my experience with it, the original is probably an 8 out of 10. Adds sauces for me. So the new one, it came out, and Arby's even did like the Good Burger 2 meal, which consisted of a Wagyu burger that has like the orange sauce on it. I guess it's like, that type of burger sauce that you see, and it's kind of the same color as the Ed sauce, I guess. Crinkle cut fries and a strawberry milkshake. So got like that was the whole thing. When I get milkshakes, I don't typically go for strawberry, but I was reminded that strawberry milkshakes are pretty good, and the Wagyu burger was really good too, delicious. Crinkle cut fries are kind of average French fry fare. But as for the movie itself, A Good Burger 2 came out 26 years after the original, so similar gap, comparable to Twin Peaks, the original series and then the Return series. I don't get why. I see people's thoughts on this movie on Good Burger 2, like on Letterboxd, for example, and I don't get why people were maybe expecting. Like, I don't know, like, I see people say that this is too stupid or that it's. I, I don't know why people expect movies like Good Burger 2 and Space Jam: A New Legacy, like why people are surprised that they are how they are when the originals were not masterpieces, and it really is just nostalgia that fuels how much people enjoy those originals. And when really those were strange cameo product placement filled movies from the 90s that feel very of the time and just like people latched onto them. So I never got why people were tough on Space Jam: A New Legacy when it was kind of doing. It was very much in the spirit of the original, but kind of different in some ways. And I feel the same way with Good Burger 2. It was very much in the spirit of the original. Although the humor, I don't think there's anything here that'll age terribly. Very early on, there are some things that feel like a repeat of certain gags from the original, which you kind of expect with this type of movie. The movie it is not dishonest about what it is, but I do feel like there are some things that aren't a complete retread. You got a new set of coworkers, which makes sense. It's years later, so they'd all be different. Well, almost all different. There's a couple of identical sisters, so they're part of the gang now, and they're kind of hit and miss, I would say, with the jokes with them. There's an old lady instead of old Otis from the original. She was okay, I guess. But the real, major. Well, I guess I'd be going into spoilers if I revealed, but I'll try to cover general stuff first. So there are some similar but also different things about this set of coworkers, and I think it generally works. And I also feel like, Ed and Dexter feel like themselves, but not to the point where, there's no Flanderization going on, there's no character assassination going on. It does feel like they've grown at least a bit since we last saw them. Like they're not static, but they're also not, they haven't moved too far from where they were before. And when imagining this type of sequel to the original Good Burger, there were times when I imagined that one could make a sequel that's set many years later, and it's kind of like Clerks 2 or Waiting or Still Waiting, where they're still working at the restaurant. Maybe they're kind of depressed about feeling left behind by the world as life is moving all around them. And, with those types of movies, there can be mixed results. But, it's a Good Burger. Like, you don't need to get that deep. I don't know if that's maybe what some people were expecting. I did not feel that that's what this movie needed to be. This is a hangout movie. It's in the lyrics of the song, we're all dudes. Just hanging out, just having fun. That's the spirit of the movie. It doesn't feel too, like, I know that with these types of movies, it can feel desperate, but to me, it feels like, hey, they're hanging out, making another one of these movies, and it's, it's just, they're just hanging out, having fun, and very much in the spirit of the original, but also adding bits of new stuff here and there. And I should also mention that there's a certain creator whose name I did not see in the credits of this. So I don't know what the story is there. I know he co-wrote the original movie and maybe didn't necessarily create the characters from all that. Like, I don't know. I don't know how the rights stuff really works, but I did notice that. I'm sure people have heard the stuff, from Nickelodeon's behind the scenes stuff, especially from Jeanette McCurdy's excellent memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. And she has a new podcast out called Hard Feelings, which is an excellent listen. If you're going to take up, if I'm going to recommend like any of these couple of things I mentioned, it definitely Hard Feelings. It's a great listen. And her memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. It's so good, especially I listened to the audiobook of that last year, and she's open and brave and honest, and yeah, so it can color your view of some of those past Nickelodeon things, and but all that said, Good Burger 2 definitely felt like the characters, it felt natural, well, as natural as that world can be. It was not Zoe 102, the less said about that, the better. It had a better grip on the characters than iCarly did. I really feel like that flanderized at least a couple of the characters. And, I'm not mourning the cancellation of that. I know it ended on a cliffhanger, but I'm, all things considered, like, yeah, I'm not upset about that ending. And so Good Burger 2, I feel like had the possibility was there for it to be completely terrible, but I feel like it was fine. It felt like the original, like maybe slightly less good than the original, in my opinion. But yeah, I think I'd also give this about a 7.25 out of 10 Eds. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess if I'm making this a Leo versus Good Burger 2 thing, I have like this list that I write about, ranking the movies I've seen from this year. And I did put Leo 3 slots above Good Burger 2, even though they're pretty much like similar scores. Like, I feel like if I were to go super micro, like even more decimal places, then I would see that Good Burger 2 might be lower than Leo. Like, Good Burger 2, I feel like I'm thinking about it more, and it's because I'm so used to the main characters. Dexter and Ed, Keenan and Kel. But I think the majority of people will probably get more out of Leo, if I'm being quite honest. Like, I feel like going into Good Burger 2, you have to already be in on, like, what Good Burger is, and I don't necessarily know that everyone is in on what that's like. Whereas Leo is standalone, and I think people will go in and be like, wait, what? In ways good and maybe kind of bad, but definitely surprising. There are very few movies like Leo, but Good Burger 2 does some interesting things. It actually makes a commentary on AI. There's been some stuff about, this debate about using AI in the film industry and using actors' likenesses or replacing their voices or faces and whatever. And Good Burger 2, that's part of the plot. These robots that look like these, like Ed, and putting them in new Good Burgers. And, that's the whole thing. And some of the villain stuff does feel a bit like a retread, but again, this is a hangout movie, and I don't think it ruins the characters as we know them, So I guess I'll get into spoilers for Good Burger 2 now. And, that's on Paramount Plus. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, so the co-workers, one of the other co-workers is Dexter's niece, and there was a falling out between Dexter and his sister, and so his niece resents him. Dexter's new job, he's an inventor basically, and one of his inventions goes wrong. And it was kind of wild because I was listening to the new episode Hard Feelings, the Jeanette McCurdy podcast where her she mentions where her assistant left, like decided to quit or whatever, and early in this movie Dexter's assistant quits after his invention goes wrong. And yeah, so that was kind of trippy. Ed, owns Good Burger, and surprisingly, he has a family and a bunch of he has a bunch of kids, and they're all pretty much like him. They dress in a Good Burger uniform, and they look like him. At first, it almost looks like they're saying that Roxanne is Ed's wife. I think that would have been a bridge too far with the fan service. But no, it's this newer woman character named Edie. Her name sounds like his name. Yeah, this movie doesn't go into as much fan service as you would think. The woman, the girl that Ed met at the asylum in the first movie, maybe some people thought, oh, they'll end up together, but no, that does not end up being the case. And again, that little subplot was kind of didn't age well. So, and Monique, Dexter's love interest in the first movie, it makes sense that they're not together because realistically, they just knew each other as teenagers, and I think it's very rare that a relationship like that would last this long. So Dexter is still kind of doing his money-making schemes, and then he's down on his luck and decides to go see Ed, his friend, which, he hasn't seen him in almost 6 years, but I think it's not conveyed as like a sad thing. It's not like, oh, I haven't seen him in 26 years. It's realistic. There's some good friends that I have that I haven't seen in person in a few years, but we're still friends. And when Dexter sees Ed, he's trying to see if he can get help, investment in his inventions, but he seems really happy to be with his friend again. And when the possibility arises that this other business person or entity or whatever is thinking of opening up more Good Burgers, franchising the place, and they are told all the perks of what that would entail. It seems like Dexter is convinced that this will make Ed happy and not just himself. So, and he doesn't seek out trying to sell Good Burger right away. It's this guy approaches him and tells him, "Oh, you guys will get this. Everyone will keep their jobs. Yada yada yada." And it seems like a really good deal that'll benefit everyone. So it's not as selfish as what Dexter tries in the first movie with that contract to get most of Ed's money. Here, he seems like he genuinely thinks he's helping Ed in addition to himself. So I do think there has been some growth for Dexter. But of course, things go wrong. They don't read the contract before signing, which admittedly that's pretty stupid. I feel like they could have written it a different way, have them read a contract that seems pleasing to them and then have them get distracted by something and they quickly switch out the contract and have them sign that thinking it's the original. Just Better Call Saul this thing, basically. But yeah, that's a little nitpick, but it fuels a conflict. The coworkers have more to do, I guess. Oh, Fizz from the original gets unfrozen. Apparently he got frozen in the freezer and he gets unfrozen. He's still alive, but he somehow still aged. The science behind this does not make sense. But it's a Good Burger movie, and it was nice seeing him. And he's just there, very briefly. It's the new coworkers are the ones who get involved in the plan to save Good Burger, and they get stuff to do. And oh, there's also like this nervous boss looking guy, like this young guy who, um, yeah, I think he was an interesting addition as well to the Good Burger team. And I liked seeing that they all just hang out. Ed just has them all hang out at the roller skate rink or whatever. Like, it seems like they all genuinely enjoy each other's company, and it's really nice. This is fast food and comfort food. It's a fast food movie. It's not top tier. Your I don't know what's a fancy restaurant. I don't know. I think you know what I'm getting at. It's a fast food movie, and so it has fast food quality. So you go in, go out, you enjoy this thing, even if it's not the best, but it's comfort food, And I thought that the conclusion is kind of similar to the original, but it has some different aspects as well. And it was fun to watch. I did not feel like I wasted my time. It's not that high of a score. It's a fine movie, but I enjoyed the ride. And the cameos, some I recognized, some I didn't. I feel like they're par for the course given the cameos in the original. And during the credits, you see these outtakes and whatnot, or like additional scenes, part of the denouement, I guess you could say. And one of these little bits, Kel says, "In Good Burger 3, we're going into space." And even if he's joking, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that. If they do, I think I'd prefer that it be their descendants and it's in the far future. So a little bit of a clean slate. You could hear like from them like what happened with Dexter and Ed a long time ago as a little update before moving on to their story. Maybe Keenan and Kel swap roles with Kel as the smarter one and Keenan as the one who is causing all these ridiculous things to happen. The goofball. Kind of like what The World's End did with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, flipping their roles that we were so used to. But if that never happens, if we don't get a Good Burger 3, we don't necessarily need it, but I had fun with Good Burger 2. Like, it was fun enough, It was what you would expect. It was about as good as you'd expect this type of movie to be, and surprisingly not terrible, in my opinion. But, hey, people will say it is, and I guess they have different tastes, different expectations, but I thought it was fine. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and without further delay, have a good day.